Osio ele chilugi, sadanale, oginale, ele nagida, che mashu ginale, che chikamagi, ani kedua, chikamagi, ale osahi. Hello and welcome to my family, my friends, and everyone else that's listening tonight. My name is Mashu Whitefeather. I am Chickamauga and Anigadua Chalagi, or Cherokee and Osage. Our call-in number tonight, should anybody like to call in and ask our special guest tonight any questions, is area code 718-506-1564. Again, that's area code 718-506-1564. If you want to contact us through our website, that's justusradioNetwork.weebly.com, and there's a place where you can leave messages, and our man behind the scenes, Chimmy, will get us the word that you have a question or you would like to say something during the show. And my guest host tonight, as always, from Aotearoa, is Doreen Bennett. Kia ora, Doreen.
Kia ora, Mashu, and ngā mihi atu kia koutou katoa. Kia ora to everyone listening today. And as usual, Mashu, it's a pleasure to be on here with you today. I'm also looking forward to our guest speaker today.
Yes, we have a very special guest tonight, someone that we both met while we were with the Indigenous Peoples Permanent Forum last May in New York, and his name is Ghazali Ohorella, and he is from the country of Maluku. And greetings to you, Ghazali.
Greetings, Mashu, and greetings to you, Doreen, and pleasure being here on the show.
I would have loved to have greeted you in your own tongue, but I have no idea what it is. So why don't you give us a little history of yourself? Let the people know who you are and what you're doing, and then we're just going to slaughter you with a bunch of questions tonight.
Oh, well, that's a biggie. Well, first of all, to explain who I am, then I have to start with where I'm from. So indeed, my name is Ghazali Ohorella, and I'm from Maluku, or officially called the Republic of the South Moluccas. You might have some eyebrows raising at this point when you learn about the Republic of the South Moluccas and look at a map and trying to find it. So I'll make it easy for you. It's in the Pacific. It's right above Australia, between Australia and the Philippines, but it's currently military occupied by Indonesia. So we were independent in 1950 for several months before we were annexed by the dictator Sukarno, and have been struggling ever since for to regain our independence. So that's actually where I'm from, and I'm a Maluku native. My both parents are both from Maluku, and we're indigenous to the Alifuru people. So you would have to imagine that we are actually a combination of, we look like the Aboriginals. Well, I don't look like, but our peoples, mostly our indigenous peoples, look like the Aboriginals from Australia, but our language and customs are more like Polynesian. So like, for example, Doreen, she's a Māori, and our language is pretty much similar to her language.
Nice.
So, so we're pretty much on the border between what we call the Melanesian race and the Polynesian race, and so we are actually Pacific peoples, even though we're occupied by a Asian country. So, and then, well, when Indonesia invaded our country, they didn't want our own soldiers to fight for our own country, so they asked the Dutch, because the Dutch decolonized the Dutch East Indies, so they asked the Dutch to take all those soldiers with them, and so almost 1,200 indigenous soldiers and their families were brought by boats to Holland. And when they arrived in Holland, they were actually fired from the Dutch East Indies Army. So then you had 1,200 soldiers with the families, and the families were big. They had no less than 4 or 5 children in one family. So they were brought under in former concentration camps in Holland. Nobody knew actually that we were there, and we were promised to be able to go back to our country in 6 months, but that turned into 6 years, and now there's a huge population of Maluku natives living in Holland at the moment. We have 75,000, and still trying to support our struggle for independence. That's where I actually came in. So, my mom actually was one of the front runners of a liberation movement, and she when I was 15, she asked me, well, what are you doing next week? So I responded, well, I was going to play outside actually. But then she said, well, no, you're coming with me to Geneva, and she brought me to the working group on indigenous populations at the United Nations. And back then I was 14, 15, and that's where the first time I came in touch with other indigenous peoples and with the whole spectrum of international law and indigenous politics and indigenous rights. And I fell in love actually with the whole atmosphere and with fighting for our rights, and I've been doing that ever since. So that was when I was 14, and that's more than 10 years ago. So I'm now 27, and I have built quite a resume, I would say, and trying to advocate for not only our people's rights, but also for the rights of indigenous peoples at large, actually, for the entire indigenous community in the world. So that's actually in short my background. I could talk for hours, but I guess you will have some other questions to ask me.
And in reading your bio, I don't have it in front of me right now, but didn't you have some education in like international law as well since then?
Yeah. The funny thing is, usually when people go to the United Nations or advocate for indigenous rights, that they went through education first and then went into the realm of politics and human rights. I did the exact opposite. So I was 15 and I was still struggling through high school, and only at that point when I returned from Geneva, that's when I decided to go to study law, international law. So that's what I did at the University of The Hague. That's the capital of international law. So it would look good on my resume, actually.
Smart move. Now, your family still resides in Holland, is that correct?
Yeah, well, a large part of my family still lives on the islands, and another part is living in Holland. So, yeah.
Okay, now, I'm assuming your goal is to be able to return to Maluku.
Yeah, exactly. It's my ultimate goal is, of course, to be able to return to independent Maluku.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, over the past couple of decades, people from natives residing in Holland were able to go back to visit their families. The only problem is that those who were politically active were actually encouraged not to go because of Indonesia didn't like the political activists to go back. So my mom, for once, she did not have a passport. She was stateless, so she wasn't able to go back to our own country. And I've been advised since I became active to not to return because they could not guarantee my safe return. So that's unfortunate, but it gave me it motivated me to continue to do what I'm doing at the moment, and so my ultimate goal was actually to be able to return to a free, independent.
Out of curiosity, Ghazali, have any of the people that came over with the original people, like with your family, have any of them become citizens of Holland, or is it the consensus that they want to keep their citizenships of your country?
Yeah. So what we're talking about as in generation. So the first generation, they maintain the nationality and the citizenship of our own republic. Also, the second generation, so their children, they were given an opportunity when the first generation saw that we weren't that the Dutch would not hold their promise of only staying in Holland for 6 months. So their children, just to make it easy for them to live and to get by and everything, they gave the second generation a possibility to gain Dutch citizenship. So which most of them did, of course.
So are you now a Dutch citizen but still fighting for your country? Correct. Very good.
Yes.
So if you did want to return, you could go on a passport from Holland.
Yes. So the travels that I make at the moment internationally, advocating for our rights. I'm doing that with a Dutch passport.
I don't know if you would know the answer to this or not, but do either of the countries, Holland and your country, do either of them have dual citizenship?
Well, for our country, because we existed only for like less than 6 months as a sovereign nation, we were not able to get to that part yet of the question on dual citizenship. The Dutch, the Netherlands, they gave people the possibility of obtaining dual citizenship because there are a lot of immigrants from Northern Africa and Eastern Europe living in Holland, and they were given the opportunity of dual citizenship, which is now a part of a discussion amongst right-wing political parties, but this is still on the table. But right now, they still have the dual citizenship possibility.
I know here in the United States does not have dual citizenship, but I have a lot of friends from Canada, and Canada will let them have dual citizenship for both Canada and the United States, but the United States doesn't recognize it. Have you been keeping up with friends and family back in your country about how things are going, and has anything changed much since your family has come to Holland?
Yeah. Keeping in touch with family. That's the most important part of traveling. So I'm keeping in touch with family in Holland, but also with family, relatives, and friends on the islands. Since we're talking about 1950s up until today, a lot of things have changed on our islands in terms of our human rights aspirations, the way of living, and everything else. Back in when we are a newborn country, we were able to determine for ourselves what we wanted to do, how we want to sustain ourselves as a country. And over the past couple of years, decades actually, you saw that the occupation became more subtle. Actually, the people were getting used to the occupation of their own country. And I'm not talking about the normal occupation, but I'm talking about a military occupation. As in that it becomes normal for them to go through checkpoints when I want to go to the market, which is only a couple of miles down the road. Normal for them to having to ask permission from a police officer when they want to do normal things, actually, the day-to-day things. And so much has changed, not only in that part, but also our main forms of sustenance, as in we have a lot of sago palms. I don't know if you're familiar with those palms. Probably are.
Mm-hmm.
So that's our main form of sustenance, and our forests, our biodiversity in the ecosystem is something that we cherish and that we preserve and want to regulate. But unfortunately, wood is very scarce in Indonesia. So, and the timber, as in logging and everything, is being an export product of Indonesia. So they've been chopping down trees on our main island, the lungs of our main island, chopping them down and disturbing a whole biodiversity and ecosystem, and replacing them with rice plantations. We don't even eat rice. Well, we learn to eat rice. We learn to eat noodles, but that's not something that we as indigenous peoples were used to. So it's a whole change of diet also, and so a lot have changed in the last couple of decades, I'm afraid.
Now, your people do. I've never been to your country, and you're the first person that I've met from your country. So I have I have questions.
Sure, go ahead. Yeah.
Do your people live like our traditional people here? Were they originally like a tribal community with your own tribal government, or
yes,
and your own territories and things like that?
Yes. So our own traditional, we had our own traditional form of government, as in traditional elders and everything else that actually regulated the whole community, or that's, I wouldn't say, well, the right word at the moment would be government. I wouldn't be able to compare it to any other type of government when it comes to indigenous people, because every indigenous people have their own particular kind of governance systems.
Correct. Yeah.
But according to our oral traditions and customs, it's our form of government. It hasn't been documented as you would assume, as in a traditional form, a Western form of government. But it has been maintained for since time immemorial, actually, and now has a less prominent role, but it still has a very influential position of the governance system. It still has a very influential position throughout the islands, luckily, still.
That's wonderful. Here with our indigenous peoples here, and again, we have a vast number of tribes, and every tribe is different, has its own culture, but our tribal governments are pretty close to being the same. Mm-hmm. And the only thing that I can honestly tell you for Turtle Island is that a lot of the things that are cherished in America's democracy came from our Iroquois people, mm-hmm. by such men as Benjamin Franklin and Thomas Jefferson. They got them from what we call our great peace laws, and they incorporated them into the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. So I guess that's the only way that I can say our tribal sense of government has carried on. Within our tribal communities, they carry on. But as far as national influence, we really don't have that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so that's one of the reasons that I'm really excited about working, you know, and learning about what goes on at the United Nations. And we were there, well, at least for me and Doreen, it was our first time there in May. And I was just amazed to see all of these other indigenous people from all over the world where we could get together and talk and learn about each other. You know, it was like I was in my seventh heaven. I mean, to me it was just wonderful because I love learning about things like that. So I think it's one good point that you made is that your government is still, your traditional government, even though maybe not recognized as much, but it is still recognized.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
And that's similar with ours, mashu, ghazali. Right. Although we're not recognized as having a separate, you know, system of leadership, they do recognize our tribes and our chiefs and our leaders, and they do listen. We haven't quite done a separate government system that works just for us, but we're heading towards there, hopefully.
We have a little more space here on Turtle Island, so it's going to take us a little longer. So,
mm-hmm.
So you've just been staying in New York as of late, and you just finished working. Let's see, was it? When did you finish this last session you were working in, ghazali?
Which session are you referring to? I've been in a lot of sessions the last couple of days, couple of weeks.
Oh, well, I think I remember you were working on sustainability.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm currently in New York for the duration of 3 to 4 months as part of the Indigenous lobbying team for the high-level plenary meeting of the UN General Assembly, to be known as, we all know, as the World Conference on Indigenous Peoples. And we're trying to maintain, actually monitoring the whole process and lobbying and advocating for the indigenous priorities and making sure that whatever comes out of this World Conference does not diminish our rights, our traditional rights, but also not our rights enshrined in the UN Declaration on Rights of Indigenous Peoples. So I've been doing that since the beginning of June, and I will continue doing that up until the World Conference, and that's why I'm based in New York at the moment. But I've also, what you're referring to, the sustainable development, attended several meetings of the Open Working Group on a post-2015 development agenda, as have been called the Sustainable Development Goals. At first, to monitor, because we have some very experienced people as part of the Indigenous Major Group advocating for our rights in that process. So I don't want to run in and do stupid things. So I was just monitoring the whole thing. I think everybody knows Roberto Barrero from the Taino people of Borinquen.
Yeah.
As we all know, right now it's Puerto Rico.
Mm-hmm.
So he's a delegate from the International Indian Treaty Council as one of the indigenous facilitators for the Indigenous Major Group, along with Tepteba, which is a indigenous organization based out of the Philippines. So they've been actually on top of this, and I was fortunate enough to be able to call them friends and be able to sit in a couple of meetings with them. So the last meeting they had, that was last Friday, but the Friday before, was actually the last open meeting for parties, as in the member states of the United Nations, and as they would call it, civil society and the major groups. And as we are Indigenous peoples, are one of the major groups, we sat into that meeting. So, and we knew that meeting would go all night because they had to go through the whole document and try to come to a agreement or a consensus between the member states on the particular language in that document. Now, the concern we have as Indigenous peoples is that sustainable development is something that we as Indigenous people since time immemorial have been employing. Actually, we have been we're talking about regulation and everything else, making sure that everything is balanced. So we as Indigenous peoples feel that we have a very important role to play in this whole process, and therefore we as Indigenous people should be mentioned in that particular document as sources, as parties, as equal partners with member states when it comes to elaborating, deciding, and implementing the Sustainable Development Goals. Unfortunately, because that whole meeting went all night, usually UN meeting goes from 10 till 6 with a lunch break between 1 and 3, but this meeting went on for 28 hours.
Oh my gosh.
So the meeting started at 10 a.m. Friday morning, and it went. I think that's the Secretary General calling. So the meeting started at 10 a.m. in the morning, and it went on until Saturday afternoon, 2 p.m. So, and the only two Indigenous peoples actually monitoring the whole process that were in the room were myself and Donica Littlechild, also from the International Union Treaty Council. So we actually slept on a UN floor during a brief break when the co-chairs had to discuss some things on the final language. So we slept on the UN floor for a couple of hours, and then from 3 till 5, and then we were woken up by everybody, and then we would continue with the meeting. And we weren't the only ones. Even member states were sleeping in the room. Japan, Norway, EU, all those. A lot of delegates from member states were also sleeping on the floor and in the meeting room.
I saw some pictures you posted of that.
Yeah, it was a very interesting process. It's something that it was an experience, but also in the end, the most important thing of UN meetings is whatever comes out of that meeting. So I'm here for the World Conference. So the most important thing is what comes out of this World Conference. So out of this meeting, there was a document produced of 25 pages with 170 sustainable development goals. So goals that states have agreed upon as their roadmap or plan of action when it comes to the post-2015 development agenda. And we actually noted that Indigenous peoples were only reflected twice in that document.
Oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm.
Which is very disturbing, to say the least. Despite all the efforts that there are facilitating organizations from the Indigenous Major Group, it all comes down to how much states are willing to fight for inclusion of Indigenous peoples in this whole process. And it went from 0 to 4 to 3 to, well, now we only have 2 to 2 times Indigenous people were reflected, and 1 partially when it comes to they included traditional knowledge. So that's way below par, of course, when it comes to, in our opinion. But as I said, as I used to say, it ain't over until the fat lady sings.
That's a traditional saying, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a traditional saying that's been shared throughout numerous statements at the United Nations.
Mm-hmm.
So the actual document will be tabled and adopted during the General Assembly next year, 2015. So we have actually the opportunity, the time between today, or actually last week, and the adoption to actually lobby states for inclusion of Indigenous peoples. It will be a very much more difficult process because it's very there are no actually specific meetings. You have to go talk to states and have to lobby them and advocate your language. But if Indigenous peoples are willing and able to assist the organizations that are now part of the major group, the International Union Treaty Council and Tepteba, we could come a long way in advocating for the inclusion of reflection of Indigenous peoples in this particular document.
Right. I have a question on terminology being used. When you say the states, are you referring to the different countries?
I'm sorry, yes. So the member states of the United Nations.
Okay, and that's referring to the member countries, because I'm just clarifying some of the nomenclature for the people that are listening in, because it may be a little confusing. You had mentioned earlier about the Indigenous Peoples Declaration of Indigenous Peoples' Rights. Wasn't there some changes in that just recently?
The UN Declaration of Rights of Indigenous Peoples?
Yes. I thought I had read that somewhere within that there had been some changes in some of the stuff that had gone on in there. I mean, for our betterment, of course.
To make it clear, the UN Declaration of Rights of Indigenous Peoples is actually a set of rights, international rights recognized internationally, human rights. I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Set of international human rights, particular relating to Indigenous peoples, which was adopted in 2007. I think what you are referring to is the zero draft of this World Conference on Indigenous peoples. So, as I've mentioned, the outcome documents the most important thing that comes out of any UN meeting is the outcome document, a political statement or declaration or whatever you want to call it. So that document won't be drafted during those 2 days or day and a half meeting in September. It is a process that goes on that will start well in advance of the World Conference, and it had started already in late May. So the President of the General Assembly, he drafted a zero draft, so a outcome document, a draft outcome document for Indigenous peoples and member states to make comments on. So that's what we've been doing actually. So when he produced the zero draft, Indigenous peoples and we as a lobbying team, we connected with the constituencies, told them, well, hey, this is the zero draft, and this is the Declaration of Rights of Indigenous Peoples. These are the priorities from the outcome document. And let's see if whatever is in the zero draft actually links with those two, or actually enforces the declaration or the outcome document. let's see if the declaration and the altar document are reflected in this particular draft. So that's where Indigenous peoples have been discussing over the last couple of weeks or months, actually. So,
Ghazali, just backtracking a little bit, because this was all a result, is that right, of the decision made at the end of the Permanent Forum on Indigenous Peoples, when they decided that there was going to be no World Conference for Indigenous Peoples. Is that right? And then a week later they changed their mind? Or the General Assembly?
Well, during the Permanent Forum, there was a lot of unknowns when it comes to the World Conference. The President of the General Assembly had not made a decision yet on how we wanted to organize the consultation process, how Indigenous peoples could feed into the outcome document, how Indigenous peoples could work on an equal basis with member states into facilitating the preparatory process. So during the Permanent Forum, there was a lot of confusion, and there was a lot of, as a lobbying team or the Global Coordinating Group, which I'm a part of, we had a number of meetings with the Office of the President of the General Assembly, asking for clarifications or when can we actually start preparing for all this. Because the longer we wait, the less time we have actually to reflect on the drafts. So because of all this confusion and everything that was occurring, a number of Indigenous peoples had the idea that we should not participate in this process and that we should withdraw ourselves. Those Indigenous peoples were particularly from the North American region, as an organized in the North American Indigenous Peoples Caucus. So at the last day of the Permanent Forum, when we still didn't receive any clarifications from the President of the General Assembly, all the regions, except for the North American region and the Youth and the Women's Caucus, appealed through the President of the General Assembly to please make a decision as soon as possible in regards to the preparatory process and the facilitating process for the outcome document, so that we can actually start preparing. So the North American Indigenous Peoples Caucus then emphasized their decision to withdraw from the process. And I think it's important to recognize that it's only the North American Peoples Caucus, Indigenous Peoples Caucus, that withdrew themselves from the process, and not the entire North American region. So that was all the confusion that actually occurred months leading up to the Permanent Forum, and actually emerged on the last day when everybody made their appeals and made presented their statements on this particular process. So in a way, there were some. It was a bit of a touch and go feeling. That are we having a World Conference? Are we not? Should we continue? Should we not? So it was. That was actually what occurred during the Permanent Forum.
Because it was great, because that was happening. It was still great that several people were able to attend, from June to now, and support you. Because not everyone was able to come back and lobby and just be supportive, but some people did.
Exactly, and it's also that actually highlights or underlines actually the actual nature of the framework of this particular meeting. It's a high-level plenary meeting of the United Nations. So it's not a World Conference as you would see as that have occurred in a couple of years ago, previously. But it's a high-level plenary meeting of the General Assembly, which actually says that any preparatory meetings or any preparatory process would not be funded by the United Nations. So everything that indigenous peoples want to do as a preparation has to come out of their own pockets. So any regional meetings that you want to organize have to be funded by yourself. Meetings as in the consultation rounds or the interactive hearings that occurred last month, indigenous peoples had to finance them themselves. So that's why actually in a brainstorming meeting in 2012 or so in Copenhagen, some indigenous representatives from all the regions decided to organize or create a global coordinating group, actually to coordinate all the preparatory efforts for this World Conference, and that would also include fundraising efforts to make sure that indigenous peoples could actually prepare themselves as best as possible for this World Conference. So, out of the GCG, so the Global Coordinating Group, a fundraising committee was established, and they went to several philanthropical institutions and so on, and actually do some fundraising efforts. So we were able actually to secure some funding to organize regional meetings. It wasn't big, but it was at least we were able to organize regional meetings. And we were also able to organize GCG meetings throughout the year to coordinate so that the regions could coordinate any political or advocacy or lobbying efforts, so that there could be a lobbying team for a duration of 3 months in New York to make sure that whatever comes out of this World Conference doesn't go back on the Declaration of Rights of Indigenous Peoples.
I know, isn't it sad that again, because it seems like a little bit of a ploy from the States, because again we have to work twice as hard as Indigenous peoples just to be sitting at the table to help influence decisions that affect our future.
Exactly.
The states have their own funding and have their own pool. It would have been great if they saw the importance of having key people from regions and actually putting some funding into that so that they can be sitting at the table, and you'd have more than just you and Danica sleeping at that final meeting. Because it was really sad that it was just the two of you, Indigenous people. Is that right? At the last meeting, like, other support for you two may have been good.
Now you're referring to the sustainable development? Yes, of course.
The last, yeah.
But that's actually the challenge we as individuals are continuously are facing is not the lack of dedication or the lack of willingness or the lack of knowledge or experience. Now it's the lack of funds actually to participate in meetings that actually affect us. And I'm not even talking about, I'm involved in this World Conference process at the human rights spectrum of the United Nations. Now also more or less the sustainable development, but there are numerous of other United Nations or other international meetings where states or industries or civil society are making decisions that actually affect us, which we cannot participate in. For one, we're not aware of, or two, that we don't have the funds to go to those meetings.
Mm.
So that's what we've been facing, that Indigenous peoples have been facing for the last, ever since we first went to the United Nations in 1977.
Yeah. I know. And, it's actually become part and parcel of what we have to do as Indigenous people by the looks of things. But as you're aware, I'm quite excited to be working with you and with Tribal Link and helping to find a way to make, Tribal Link at least sustainable when it comes to funding. Mm-hmm. And it's just a matter of us, I guess, developing proposals or initiatives or projects that use the same language that funders, states, or corporate organisations, their language. Mm-hmm. Because what I can see is I think a lot of people want to help Indigenous peoples. They just don't know how yet. So it's just a matter of us being clever in how we word things so that we can receive their help in a financial way and so that it's ongoing. So that's quite exciting looking at it in that light. At a local level where I am, we still have to do that here for our projects, initiatives and services. Mm-hmm. At an international level, it's a similar process, just on a bigger scale. So hopefully there's something there, and if we can work out a process or a model that can work for anyone, then we would have set something in place that could be sustainable. It's the plan, and you're in that.
I would like to jump in and say if there's anyone that would like to call in or with any questions, our telephone number is area code 718-506-1564. Again, that's area code 718-506-1564. Or you can message us at our website at Just Us Radio Network, Weebly.com. Yes, that's right, Weebly.com. Very interesting, Ghazali. You are one busy man.
Yeah.
Oh, I always say it keeps me off the streets. So.
And out of trouble, and that's
out of trouble, yeah.
Because when our Indigenous people are known, we want them to be known for good, positive things. So you are doing a good job.
No, all I can do is my best.
Yeah. I tell you, this has been very interesting for me. Like last May was the first time for me to go to the UN, and I saw a whole new way of doing things that, I kind of was aware of, but I didn't know that Indigenous people were allowed to come to things like that, because we're here usually in our own local and community levels here, and so this has really opened up my eyes to a whole new way, a way to make contact so we can, as Indigenous people, work together on our own for different projects, to help each other. And I think the key word there is unity as Indigenous people, no matter what tribe, what part of the world you're from, or anything, the fact that we are able to help each other, to do whatever, I think that's a good facilitator.
Yes, and I totally agree. It's, meetings like Different Inform and Different Inform for one is a very good podium for Indigenous people to actually see that we're not alone. Like, we all have common issues, common challenges, common opportunities that we can explore together and make sure that our rights are actually respected. And it's also for every year I see a lot of new faces, and good thing is also I see a lot of young faces at the Different Forum. And during this year, I'm one of the mentors of the Project Access of the Tribal Link Foundation. And one trainee. He was, I don't know, 16, 17, and he came right after the first meeting of the Permanent Forum. He came up to me and he told me, like, Ghazali, I'd never seen a white indigenous person. So I looked at him. What do you mean? Well, look at them. Like, I thought that indigenous peoples were all had a color, like, or brown or dark or whatever.
Oh, he was probably talking about the Sami.
Exactly. He was talking about the Sami.
The Sami from, where is it, Norway?
It's, the Scandinavia, so Norway, Sweden, Finland, and part of Russia.
Yeah.
So that was a eye-opener for him, that I'd actually known that there were, but no, I was seeing that they're well, lighter color than the rest of us, but they're indigenous, and he saw he could actually connect with them on an indigenous level, regardless of any skin color, I might say.
I think I remember the young man you're talking about. It was his first time there as well, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, I was very impressed with him.
Yeah, it's a young guy, very aspirational guy, ambitious, and he could. And what we're talking about,
Victor.
Yeah, Victor Anthony Lopez. So young. I think he was studying medicine or something, and he really wanted to go to the United Nations, and he came out of the UN. He was even more motivated than he came in, and that's a good thing. That's what we need. People who are motivated to help not only their own communities but indigenous movement.
Yeah. Yes, he was. For someone so young, but these young ones coming through are real sharp, and if they pick up a cause, they're in their boots and all. So that's what he reminded me of, because he was there, present with us. If he didn't know anything, he would ask.
Right.
So it was kind of like looking at how you got started, Ghazali, because you went to the Geneva when you were 15.
Yes, I was 14, 15, and I had to straight away. I had to present my first statement to the working group to the UN at that point, at that age, and
oh my God!
So I was shaking like hours before I had to present the statement, and I think I was still shaking when I came back home. So it was quite an experience back then.
But look at all this experience that you've had since you've been going back, for different meetings and issues that you've been going back on, and that in itself is priceless experience that you have, and especially working for all indigenous peoples.
Exactly, and I now can say that actually I'm living my dream job. Actually, it's what I wanted when I went to law school. When I wanted to go to law school and studied when I was 15. That's what I want. That's when I decided what I wanted to do, and I'm actually doing it right now. So it's. I feel very privileged actually to be able to. That my mom took me at a very young age, and the point where I'm at right now as an indigenous lawyer.
As an indigenous lawyer, I know that you're doing a lot of work with the UN to help all indigenous peoples, but do you, as an indigenous lawyer, take on cases and advocate for the change of laws for a particular tribe, or are you able to go from one tribe to another as an indigenous lawyer? And the reason I'm asking this is because here in the States, if we're going to challenge the government or the law about anything, I'm always advocating that we have our own indigenous lawyers.
Right.
And I know you also have international law behind you, but does that give you the ability, being an Indigenous lawyer in Indigenous law and international law, are you able to go like from one tribe to another, or do you feel like you have to, well, the laws are there, I guess that's pretty much Anglo?
Well, my only, well, I feel that every tribe is able to represent itself, and every tribe has its own right to take on any lawyer they want. And I'm not that kind of person that actually solicits itself to any tribe or indigenous peoples. But I was always willing to advocate or help out or assist any indigenous lawyer out there that requires my help or would like to have my help.
Okay, but you have the background where you can do it, I guess that's what I'm...
Yes, yeah, I'm sorry, yeah. So I have the background, yeah.
Okay, because I think especially, and this, I don't think a lot of our own people here on Turtle Island get it. It's when you're doing anything that's affecting your people, especially tribal people on reservations or wherever you're living, you really need to have a lawyer that specializes in Indigenous law.
Exactly, and like I said, like Indigenous Rights of Indigenous law, that varies per tribe or per nation or per peoples. Mm-hmm. So if I would, for example, would go into a Cherokee Nation, then I would need at least a couple of months actually to familiarize myself with the traditional customs and traditional law, that Indigenous law that the Cherokee Nation is accustomed to.
Right. Well, it's 9:00 here. I think we're going to go into break, and we will return in about 5 minutes.
Great.
Join us on Just Us Radio Network for our shows Inflowment, Unity in Community, Numbers in Time, The Indigenous People's Voice, One Point of View, Walking the Talk with Kurt, and the People's Round Table. Check out our website for information about upcoming shows. Just ask Google to find Just Us Radio Network, and you will find links to our website and to our Blog Talk and Facebook pages, as well as to our podcast, where you can subscribe for automatic downloads.
Welcome back. We have our special guest tonight, who is Ghazali, Ohorella, talking about his experiences and the things that he's doing through the UN. Before we get going in another good conversation, I want to remind people that our call-in number is area code 718-506-1564. Again, that's 718-506-1564. And our webpage is another way that you can reach us, and that's justusradionetwork.weebly.com. There is a place for comments there, and you can reach us there. And Doreen?
Welcome back, everyone. Kia ora mashu. I was going to let you talk about the song, the waiata, in our break, because he's related to you.
Yes, that was done by my adopted late brother, Peter P. Cope, and it's he is Napu, he of New Zealand, and that's the family that I was adopted into about 30 years ago. And that song, Pua o Napuhi, has kind of become the national anthem of the Napuhi people, which is located in the northern part of Aotearoa, or as the rest of the world knows it, New Zealand.
Mm. And one of the reasons, Marsha, just so we emphasise it, one of the reasons he wrote that waiata, that song, was in recognition of restoring our language.
Exactly.
It was written in the 1970s. Did he write it somewhere?
It was in the late 70s.
Mm.
Yeah.
And when our language was, almost lost in Aotearoa.
Yes, he was a great advocate for language and maintaining traditions.
Mm. Oh, now, one of the things I did want to talk about, Ghazali, is the SIDS conference, which is coming up very soon, the Small Island Development. Is that right?
It's the Small Island Developing States.
That's right, because I did see it on the network. The conference is coming up in Samoa.
Yes, it will be from 1 till the 4th of September.
Are you going to that?
I wish I was, but I have a prior obligation to be here in New York, so unfortunately I'm unable to attend. But I learned that a lot of very experienced and very capable Indigenous representatives and advocates will go to that meeting. So I'm convinced that we'll be represented well in that meeting.
Yeah, great. So that was talking about sustainable development. Is that what the conference is about?
Yes. Yeah. Well, it's actually regarding sustainable development. There are two separate processes. So one is the post-2015 development agenda of the United Nations, and the other one is the International Conference on Small Island Developing States, which will have dialogues on, I think, sustainable economic development, climate change, health, energy, sustainable energy, biodiversity, water sanitation, food security. So everything that's actually also very relevant to Indigenous peoples.
No, I'm going to work out a way where I can just pop over to Samoa and attend that, because it's not too far from us. And I do think that we've got people here from Aotearoa that will be attending that conference.
I'm sure that the number of people from Aotearoa would attend that meeting. Yeah.
Mm. Okay, I just thought I'd chuck that in because I saw it on my email and on my Facebook page. So, and it's not too far and not too hard for us here.
No, exactly. And the SIDS conference is very relevant to, of course, for us Indigenous peoples from the Pacific, from small island states of, for example, Tuvalu, Vanuatu, Fiji, Samoa, and all those small island states. They're very they're on the front lines of climate change and everything else, but also small island states as in Puerto Rico, Boniquen, Puerto Rico, also very what the SIDS meeting is also very relevant to them.
Yes. So, Machu, I bet you wish you were over this side. that conference.
I would think that. I'm going to say so that the one that you're talking about is probably going to be about the same time as the one that's going on in New York for the World Conference.
So the SIDS meeting, which will be held in Apia, Samoa, will be held from 1 to 4 September, the 4th of September, and the World Conference in New York will be held on the 22nd and 23rd of September. So there's a little bit of time between those two important meetings.
Well, no, Mashu, you need
yeah,
to
you're right. It is for those 2 days. They want. Yes, I'm going to give that, and it's going to back on the 24th. I'm trying to think, and the one for Samoa is when? Hello?
You're cutting out. Yeah. So what you're asking about? That's the CITES conference, and that will be held from 1 to the 4th of September, and then the World Conference on Indigenous Peoples, which is only a day and a half meeting, will be held on September 22nd and 23rd.
So the one in Samoa is starts on the 4th, or it ends on the 4th?
Pardon me?
We're breaking up for some reason. His call dropped. Doreen, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you fine, so we'll just wait for him to come back in.
I was trying to find the dates of the one for Samoa. I was just curious. I mean, there's no way I'm going to make it, but...
well, it's early September.
Oh, okay.
So, but what I might do is, because I won't be attending the World Conference, I might pop over to Samoa.
Oh, that'd be good.
Yeah.
Maybe.
But there's also some other conferences coming up in Australia for Indigenous women.
I think I saw that.
Wouldn't mind getting involved in. Ghazali, are you back with us?
Yes. I'm here.
You attending Geneva?
Oh, maybe it's your signal there, but it's not coming. You keep breaking up on us, so.
So, Mashu, we need to find the dates for Geneva as well, so we can attend and let people know.
So are we planning to go to Geneva? I thought that's the first part of September as well.
No, I think it's after the World Conference, and it goes through to November, the different meetings and conferences they have.
Yeah, there are a number of meetings occurring in Geneva, because Geneva is mostly human rights based. So there are a number of human rights based meetings occurring in Geneva throughout the year. The Geneva is the headquarters of the United Nations Human Rights Council, which meets at least four times throughout the year. And during the September meeting is actually considering the reports of the expert mechanism on the rights of indigenous peoples. The special rapporteur on the rights of indigenous peoples will present her report, and it will also consider other matters relating to indigenous peoples.
When was the one for the Treaty Council? That's what I'm trying to think of. Wasn't that supposed to be the first part of September?
I think you're now referring to the Universal Periodic Review, or no, the SIR Committee. Sorry. So there's a treaty on the Convention on the Elimination of Racial Discrimination, which monitors states' efforts in eradicating racial discrimination. and states are actually are being reviewed periodically, and it would happen that during the next upcoming session, the United States will be reviewed.
Doing a lecture on cultural diversity. I've done a lot of those talks for staff where I've worked, as far as hospital and different people coming in as clientele, and then the one I'm doing Wednesday night is for one of the local government municipalities for their staff and stuff. So I'm going to be doing that on Wednesday.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
So that would be interesting. Like you, Ghazali.
Right, Ghazali, are you going to
be out of trouble? What was that?
I'm sorry.
Oh. I said
Ghazali.
Yes.
Will you be attending Geneva, one of the meetings in Geneva?
Well, mostly throughout the year, I attend a number of meetings in Geneva. For example, the Expert Mechanism on Rights of Indigenous Peoples, and several meetings of the Human Rights Council, and then occasionally, when relevant, meetings of the UN treaty bodies. So throughout the year, I'm actually going back and forth through Geneva and New York normally, but not this year. This year is different.
Okay. And I think Mashu and I were looking at attending one of them in Geneva. I'm not sure which would be the better one for the stage. Because it's all new for us.
Well,
think that
all right. I think well, you have to define better ones. It's a lot of meetings in Geneva that have actually a little bit more teeth than some meetings that will occur in New York. You have to make a distinction between New York and Geneva. Geneva is more human rights based, and New York is more politically based. So in Geneva, as I said, as a mechanism on the rights of indigenous peoples, will convene usually beginning of July, which will it's a new body. It's a very new body, but very active and very effective. And its recommendations going to its subsidiary body, which is the Human Rights Council, and they will actually consider their report and then take that report up until into a dividing stage or take it into the United Nations General Assembly. So you can actually, based on human rights, in my opinion, you can actually achieve a lot in Geneva. For example, also the different treaties within the United Nations, like the Convention Against Torture, Rights of the Child, discrimination against women, of the eradication of it. You can actually, as indigenous peoples, you can actually go into those meetings, prepare reports, submit them, and they will actually use them. Whereas, which is very effective, and which are very actually, you get a lot more bang for your buck actually when you go to Geneva. Whereas when you go to the Plenary Forum, it's more economic and social rights-based, not economic and social affairs. So it's not really touching upon the rights that we are trying to. It does. It's a whole different spectrum of work within the nation. So there's just you can with in for example, it's in 2012 the Universal Periodic Review. So again, states are monitored, and they had actually present their progress when it comes to all the human rights standards of the United Nations and how the states are actually promoting or protecting those rights. And I actually presented a shadow report to states regarding the human rights track record of Indonesia, and they actually used the language and the recommendations I made in that report in their review of Indonesia. So it's actually a very good tool for indigenous peoples to compel states to make any plans of actions or any recommendations, or listen to any recommendations made by the Human Rights Council when it comes to the implementation of the rights of indigenous peoples. So it's a very effective tool that indigenous peoples can utilize, and that's what I've been actually trying to. While I'm still young, but there are a lot of more experienced people in this particular realm of the human rights bodies of the United Nations. But I've taken upon myself actually to also trying to educate those who are slightly younger than I am or slightly older than I am, and using some kind of alternative learning and educating or building the capacity on indigenous rights, and also on how the UN works and how they can utilize the UN.
Oh, that's very good. We need more people like you to do that. When I saw some things posted on Facebook, of course. Were you were just over by the Sami people?
Yes. Well, as of the Parent Forum this year, I've been actually somewhat adopted by the Sami people of both Finland and Norway.
Oh, great!
Yeah, during my induction, I had to yoik, so that's one of their traditional chants. So I had to do that. So I think I'm the first specific coconut skinned guy to yoik a traditional Sami song. But they're very very kind and very open and very warm peoples. Actually, it's been my privilege to be able to call them my friends, and I can now say I have friends in high places.
Hey.
And so I was invited to go to Norway to one of the traditional indigenous festivals called Riddu Riddu, and I was invited to do a seminar on indigenous rights. So I had a group of young kids. Well, not kids. Well, the youngest one was 13, and the oldest one was 32. So I had a broad range of participants, and I tried to explain in a very playful way, but very in a way that they could understand their rights, as in self-determination, free primal consent, and everything else. And it was very good, and they all said, "Well, I'm now even more motivated to defend the rights of my own peoples," and that's actually what I want. I don't want I don't want that information that I have to stick with me. I want everybody to know how to defend, how to come up with their own rights, and so we can actually build or improve the movement that we have at this point. And we need young ones, young people. It's a cliche, but it's true. It's like they're the future. And I'm only 27, and I'm still looking. I'm already looking ahead. Like, well, what if in 20 years, like I'm exhausted? Like I can't do it. Take this on for like another 30 or 40 years. So there has to be a continuation of indigenous experts, and I'm not talking about experts as in went to school and having a degree in international law or whatever. It's like, but just experts in these are my rights, and willing to come up for your rights and defend your rights. I think that's even more important than having a degree in international law or whatsoever.
You had someone else that was with you over there too, and I can't think of his name. Is he also from your country?
Oh, you're talking about Simon Peperas. He's he's from Indonesia.
Oh yeah,
he's from He's from Kalimantan or Borneo or some people might call it. And he was actually there to also do a seminar, but on rainforest, because Indonesia there's a lot of illegal logging and a lot of logging companies and everything else, and so he was invited to come to Rido to explain Indigenous people. First, there were a lot of Sami on rainforests and how to preserve them and how important they are to not only the Indigenous peoples of his particular island or in the Asian region, but but the Indigenous peoples around the world. It was a very, very very good seminar, and he's a young guy as well, and already he has so much knowledge about Indigenous rights, rainforests, and he's from the grassroots, and I see him every year at the Plain Forum, trying to get minutes of the attention of the United Nations, because face it, in the end, minutes is like gold to us, for Indigenous peoples, for states and United Nations to listen to us. And like him, there are a lot of Indigenous peoples coming to the United Nations from the grassroots who have experienced the utmost atrocities that you could ever experience, not only to your peoples, to your human beings, but to your immediate surroundings, as your land, your territory, your biodiversity, your ecosystem, and going to the UN and trying to compel the UN to address that particular situation.
Right. You were adopted by the Sami. You had a little better luck than I did, because I think I was kind of adopted by the people from northern Russia in Siberia.
Wait, okay.
I know. I have a beautiful tape here, all of their culture, and the guy that was there representing the people he sits on the Russian parliament, and he left between those 2 weeks.
Okay.
And I was looking at this, and I went, I don't think there's any way I would be living that far north. Our people are a southern people. We like our heat.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's I always say when I go to Scandinavia or parts of the world that the temperatures are not that good for my tropical blood. That I need to be able to maintain a coconut skin, and if it turns white, then that's a signal for me to go back.
Well, just go in the summer months then.
Yeah, probably. That's might be a good idea.
I saw some of the pictures that were posted of the gathering there with the Sami people, and it looked like y'all were having a lot of fun. It was probably very culturally educational.
It was. It's a very good mix, and it's something that I would actually encourage other festivals. I'm not that big in the festival world, of course, but it's a very balanced festival. So during the day, there are a lot of educational things happening, hands-on learning of indigenous customs, traits, and everything.
Mm-hmm.
I did my part as in educating the youth and other people and older people as well on indigenous rights and the UN system. And during the evening, there's a cultural exchange of Sami contemporary artists and other artists from the Arctic. But one of the main events was a tribe called Red, which is a couple of musicians actually from Canada. They're very known in the world and throughout the First Nations.
Yeah, I saw that.
And they performed actually at the Rido, and it's so great how they actually experience this whole ambiance, because they travel all around the world performing to different kinds of people. So they're not performing only for indigenous peoples, but also for like mainstream, just normal citizens of the world. And they always have to go through some kind of a confrontation with other peoples. So hey, we're indigenous, and this is what we are. And there are almost in every single performance, they're being confronted with that, and they have to defend themselves. And they said, like, the moment they landed in Norway, they felt being at home. So they didn't have to defend themselves. There was no confrontation, and it was just what they needed, actually, after traveling all around the world, after having to protect themselves, actually, to prove that they're indigenous. And then when they arrived in Norway, and then it was like, yeah, we're home. And that's the same feeling I had. It's the warmness that the Sami people have, even though they're all the way up north in Scandinavia, where the sun doesn't go down, which was a shock to me. 3:30 in the morning, and the sun was still shining. But there was a lot of warmth in that within the Sami peoples, and I'm glad, even though it was not a formal setting, but like the Sami youth of Finland, they actually adopted me in their community. So I'm very grateful for that, and I feel for one a very strong connection with the Sami.
Mm. I think I'd seen in some pictures where the group you were talking about, the First Nations that were entertaining there, they were actually, one of them had actually started a round dance with the Sami people there, a circle dance.
And it was so funny when, so the DJ said, well, hey guys, do you know the round dance? Mm-hmm. And immediately everybody made a step backwards, creating a circle, as if they knew what a round dance meant. Of course, they've seen it on TV or on YouTube or whatever, but like they knew what they meant, and it was perfect closing of that particular evening. There was fun, it was dancing and everything, but then closing it was a round dance. It actually made the whole indigenous concept lands into the minds of the people that were there, not only indigenous people, but also peoples of non-indigenous peoples in Norway and Sweden and Finland, they saw that connection between the people of northern Canada and people of northern Scandinavia.
Right.
That indigenous connection. For me that was the goosebumps moment of that particular festival.
I had recognized a few of the people in those photographs from your trip there that were at the permanent forum.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was good to see that. And I said, my goodness, that ghazali really gets around. I thought. Must be nice. You said you're going to be there for the World Conference.
Yes, I'm here still. So the lobbying team is meeting every day actually to monitor the whole progress of this outcome document. So there's another consultation round coming up in August 18th and 19th. So we're preparing for that. More regions for that particular meeting, and then we're going into a somewhat balanced procedure, a intergovernmental process. So there will be no meeting, but it will be a process of governments of member states of the United Nations. So we as Indigenous peoples will have to lobby governments of states, of missions of the United Nations of states at the UN directly, trying to advocate for the language that we have prioritized to be reflected into this outcome document of the World Conference. Then we have the World Conference on that day and a half meeting. It's at the 22nd and 23rd, and then and then I'll be departing from New York in end of December, and I'll be going to Scandinavia again.
Geez, do you need someone to carry your luggage? Better yet, do you want somebody to be your luggage?
Well, it's I always like to share my experiences with other people. It's that's why I'm very I post a lot of photos on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook to actually let them know that the work I'm doing, and I'm actually having fun in the work that I'm doing, and it's also a way of feeling privileged. Being able to do what I love to do, and I admit that I'm not there yet, at that particular point that I should be, or that I need to be as a specialist and expert, but already I know that this is the work that I love, so I'm feeling very privileged, and I wish that other people who would like to do the same thing could do that as well, and maybe that this could be my postings on social media. Maybe that could be some kind of a motivator for them to do the same work as I do.
You know, Doreen and I travel a lot, and we have our own NGO called Two Feathers International Consultancy, that over the last 4 years has grown out of a cultural exchange she and I started between the Maluku people and our Cherokee. And I was looking at those pictures that you posted when you were over there with the Sami people, and I was just, I've been tossing back and forth if there's something we could do similar to that, and have programs on. But I think, that's probably going to be down the road a little bit if we do. But I think.
Oh, it's good to be ambitious. So it's definitely a road you want to travel. It would be very good to exchange views and your culture in a very informal setting.
Right.
I think that's the best way to preserve your own culture, language, and your traditions.
Exactly. And that's one of the goals of our NGO is to preserve just that, our culture, our traditions, and our language. And Doreen is the one who usually posts the pictures in our travels of where we're going. She did a good job of the one when we were there in New York.
Right.
But for the same reason as you, Ghazali, it's taking our peoples, on the journey with us. You know, because you're right, we've been fortunate to be in positions that we're in where we can do all these amazing things, and it's even better when we can share it with our peoples. And as a result of that, I honestly believe it does inspires our people to want to learn a little bit more, or to make contact, say, on Facebook and ask some questions. And I guess that's one of the key goals that we want, is to get more of our people involved in different things. It's only small steps to get to where you want to be, so that you can live your dreams. And I think it's absolutely inspiring watching you, because you're at a different level again to where Master and I are going.
Yeah.
But it's absolutely inspiring, because you're only young. You're only 27, so you haven't hit our age or older. So I still consider you one of the young.
That would be 35.
Listen to him talk.
You're still one of the young, dynamic ones. You've still got a lot of energy in you. I know these young ones, 17, 18, 19-year-olds, are coming through as well. But I still think you've, and probably from your mum, you've learned some ethics, about cultural behaviour and just what's right and wrong. You've actually got that. So, and that's probably something your mum has nurtured with you or shown you through your life. So the young ones still have to learn all of those ethics and protocols of how to conduct yourself when you're with others, and respect and all those values. You've still got that? You've got that as a young person still. So by the time you get to a ripe old age, you'll be at that to be able to become the teacher, guide our younger ones, and just make sure everyone's still on the right path that was set, from our parents and our ancestors. So don't retire your young hat yet.
No, it's because the important thing is that I'm doing what I love doing. Actually, that is what I love, and continuing to not educating other peoples, but it's like a two-way street. So I'm trying to teach young people on indigenous rights, but I'm also trying to learn about how they are moving throughout the society and how they're trying to discover themselves, their indigenous identity, and giving them tools, and they get free tools, and then try to lift ourselves up. And I'm going to Scandinavia after the World Conference. I'm going to Finland. I'm doing a number of seminars, of course, for the Sami people again, in Finland on indigenous rights. So it will be a two-part seminar, an hour and a half on the Sami traditional way of living, which I will, of course, will not be presenting, but it will be a Sami friend of mine. And then I will go into an hour and a half of indigenous rights and how to protect it and how to promote and protect it. So that's what I love doing. Part of lobbying or protecting or advocating for our collective rights at the international level.
Very good.
It is. We have to look at a way to bring you over this way, Ghazali, so that you can run a program over here on Indigenous rights, because although we have some of our peoples that are aware, we have more that aren't.
Yeah, exactly. It's well, being a coordinator for the Pacific region, I've come across a lot of very capable people from our region. So I know that it's out there. There are a lot of very capable people that can actually make a difference on a local level, and who just need the right tools, who just need the right motivation actually to do things. And I know that
we have doing that, the more of an effect it's going to be in it, and the more effective we're going to be in that.
Exactly.
It's a little bit different, though. It's a little bit different, like here, if we hearing it from the voice of another Indigenous person. Now, we're more likely over here to get that interest in people that want to learn and want to know a bit more than we are from one of our own teaching. And it's just how we are at the moment over here.
Mm-hmm.
You'd agree, Mashu?
I agree. I was just trying to figure out a way where we can do that, because I want to be a part of that also. I want to sit on one of his seminars. Well, if I start carving my waka now, I can probably be there in 3 or 4 months.
Well, one of the things... yeah. He's dreaming.
Yeah, if I don't get lost, I'll probably get stuck in Hawaii.
No, that's not be a bad place to be stuck in.
Oh, no. Hawaii is very expensive. I'll be the one living on the beach. Come and get me.
But one of the things that I'm looking at over here for next year is, even though I'm hoping to be based in Turtle Island from October on, but next year I'm looking at a conference over here, a weekend conference.
Mm-hmm.
So at that conference, I'm hoping to get people like yourself, well, definitely you, Mashu, but you'll have to come home with me. But also, Ghazali, to speak at the conference, because I want to just open up the world a little bit more for the people in my community, the people that I'm linked with, and some of my tribes. I just think it's a good opportunity. So I'm also working on doing that, coming home for that conference.
Have you been to Aotearoa, Ghazali?
Yes, a couple of times actually. It's I like it actually. It's well, I'm apart from our cultural connections, I'm also a very big rugby fan. For rugby myself, so
there you go.
Aotearoa is like.
Wait a minute, isn't rugby cultural? That's a cultural link.
We're the champions. Mashu.
I've been going there off and on for 30 years, and I consider Aotearoa to be like my second home.
Wow, good on you.
I love it there.
Yeah. So yeah. So, but it's very important to have that awareness raising on a local level. It's useless to advocate for your rights on an international level if there's no actual application or awareness of indigenous rights on a local level. So it has to be goes hand in hand actually. And that's what I'm always trying to advocate for. I'm trying to tell people that advocating at the United Nations is one thing, but the most important thing is to advocate for your rights on a local level. educating your community on their fundamental freedoms, the fundamental rights that are being taken away from them, and in some cases actually without them even knowing. Like it goes very subtle, and they need to be aware of that. It's not like that they should be very they should be very aware of everything that goes around them, everything that affects them, and that awareness makes our work at the international level a lot easier and a lot more substantive. Seminars or lectures or whatever trainings or whatever you want to call it on a local level are very fundamental and very important aspect of advocating for our indigenous rights.
I agree. I think even from a tribal level, because what happens there, we need to learn how to, like within our own tribal communities, to work together. That the unity has to be there, and know how to present outside of our tribal unit as well, on the local, non-tribal level, and then on up the chain to where you're at your international level.
Right. Exactly.
Very good. Very good. Well, we've got, I think, about 6 minutes left here. I'm trying to think. Do you as an indigenous people, as an indigenous person, see where, as indigenous people as a whole, not individually, but as a whole worldwide, where we are making a difference? And I'm asking you this because it's part of our prophecies here, and I'm just wondering what your view is on that.
Oh, so sorry. Could you repeat that question again?
I said, what is your thinking on indigenous people as a whole worldwide, as far as making a difference internationally? And the reason I'm asking you that is because that's a part of our prophecies here amongst our indigenous people.
Mm-hmm.
So I was wondering, do you see that happening, and what are your thoughts on that?
I've only been in this line of work for 10 years, and I've seen a lot of. I know a lot of people that have been around for at least twice that amount of years. But in those 10 years, I've seen a lot of progress actually, and it's hard to see all the progress, but it's like subtle changes.
Mm-hmm.
But a very subtle but monumental on a local level. Subtle at the UN level, but monumental on a local level, and that's something that we can really be proud of as in advocating for our rights. But I also see that over the last couple of years, we've been able to grow towards each other as indigenous peoples. We were interlinked, of course, but now on a more international level, we've been able to grow together and be able to work more effectively and see across borders. And that's what astounds me actually, is that we as indigenous peoples, we have had the tools, the knowledge, and everything else, but we haven't been able to actually effectively utilize them on a local level, or not on a local level, but on the international level, and coming together internationally.
Very good.
But it has been, it's crystallizing at the moment. It's like it's coming together all at this. That's what I'm seeing, and from my point of view, it's a sight to see. Actually, it's to see that that, for example, I don't want to come speak up the rear ends of the Sami, but like they actually organized a global preparatory meeting for this World Conference without any interest. So they actually invested in building a consensus position, and they by bringing in hundreds of indigenous peoples to Alta, all the way up north to Norway, and we were able to come with a consensus document, which is a very strong position of indigenous peoples when it comes to the working on the international level. So I've seen a lot of very positive changes, although they've been subtle, but it's again, it's for me, it's a sight to see, and I wish that I could share with everybody else actually, and throughout my work and my postings on social media, I try to show that to people.
Ghazali, I'm going to have to, we have about a minute left.
Well, I'm done anyway.
Well, that's good. No, I'd like to thank you so much for being our guest on our show tonight, and filling everybody in on what's going on and the projects that you're doing with the United Nations and what all three of us collectively are trying to do, for our people all over the world. Doreen, do you have anything you'd like to say before we close?
Thank you so much for being a voice for us, because you're doing it with dignity and with pride, and I'm just so proud of you. Thank you very much for that. He mihi kia koe, Ghazali.
And I'd like to say, Sonoyo Staeli Donadaga Eo Ganale Eli Nagida Eli Sadigai. Have a good night, and we look forward to having you listen next week. Thank you again, Ghazali.